Hello, hope you're all okay. I'm Paul, this is Out Nerdy, and let's get into it. Now, the BBC looks like it could be in a bit of poop. It has been given notice that as of 2027, it will have to start thinking of new ways to fund itself. They've dialed this back a bit compared to yesterday, where it seems to have been absolutely the end of the BBC from a license point of view, but is it good news? Yes. I don't like the thought of I don't pay a TV license because I don't watch the BBC or watch live TV anymore. I purely generally just watch YouTube channels or Netflix, Amazon, etc. And it is right that it's going anyway because the BBC has served its purpose. Now, don't get me wrong, it was probably a good thing once, but the world has moved on and the BBC has failed to move with it. So what she said, she went to the House of Commons to serve notice, and for the next 2 years it's frozen. So you'll only be those that do choose to pay a license because you are legally don't have to pay it if you tell them that you don't watch the BBC, that you don't watch live TV. So for the next 2 years it'll be frozen, and like I said, it's going to have to think of new ways to fund itself. Now, this obviously has got Labour and all the left in a tiz. Even obviously the BBC staff are not happy at this because they're about to lose their cushy number. So it can only be good for the people of Great Britain. You know, as she said, the days of bailiffs banging on old ladies' doors, they're going to be a thing of the past, and they should have been a thing of the past. It shouldn't have took the Rona to stop the BBC sending its thugs round to try and intimidate people. For a long time now, the BBC has been living off its reputation that it garnered during World War II. The mission of the BBC at one point was to educate, entertain, and inform. And it's even got its own radio show called The Phony War, where it draws parallels between the BBC at the start of World War II and BBC at the start of the Rona pandemic. And it tries to compare how the BBC favoured and figures and how it was relevant both then and now. One of the things the BBC did at the start of World War II, a lot of it because of public pressure, was to completely revamp itself and how it interacted with the populace, how it interacted with the population. Yeah, it did no such thing in March 2020. During World War II, there was lots of TV programs. Not TV, that was discontinued at the outbreak. Sorry, there was lots of radio. You know, it was to teach you how to make food go further. It was to give you public information commercials such as where your nearest air raid shelter maybe. It would teach you how to grow your garden. It would give you recipes. It would give you fashion advice on how to make your clothes go further. It would, it informed, and it educated, and it certainly entertained. Because the BBC at the height of World War II, in its worst phases for us, between 1940 and 1941, when the Germans were knocking on the door, the BBC helped to keep the morale up of the British people. It entertained them. It made them laugh. We had, Tommy Hanley and Itmar, and we had lots of others that I just can't. Obviously, I don't know too much about. It had the show, with Vera Lynn, Sincerely Yours. It kept people laughing. It kept people laughing and smile. Keep smiling through. It did not do any of this during the Rona. Not a sodding thing. When all the children were told not to come into school, did it change its programming? No. It kept on with the same old fucking bouncers at the door, or fucking following the bailiffs, or following round fucking the fire brigade as they fucking put out fires and shit. The sheriffs are coming, or whatever the fuck it were called. I mean, I know, granted, most people are at work during the day, regardless of whether there's a pandemic or not. But at least put something fucking decent on for those that are students, or for those that are on different shifts where you might be up during the day before you start work at fucking 2 o'clock. But it didn't do anything. If you're old enough, you'll remember how the BBC, especially BBC Two, a lot of it was documentaries. A lot of it was even school stuff. From 4 or 5 in the morning, it'd start off with Open University, and it would go all the way through till about 2 o'clock in the afternoon, where it would be various levels of education, be it junior, infants, secondary, or just normal college. It would give you that information. It was there for you to absorb if you wanted it. And they got rid of it in the early 2000s, I think it was. But did they bring it back? No. Did they try to give you light entertainment during what I guess we will now see as the height of the pandemic, where it was possibly at its scariest, before all the nonsense lockdown rules started coming in? No, they didn't. They carried on with the same shit, day in, day out, and 3 years on, they haven't done anything to try and address it. During World War II, the BBC was pressured to try and put out false information which could be detrimental to the enemy. The BBC resisted on views of that it was impartial. It was there to try and garner public support from neutral nations. So it resisted the attempts for it to be used, for it to be weaponised. If we jump to now, to 2022, to 2020, to 2021, did the government do anything to hold? Did the BBC do anything to hold the government to account? No. Did it question the government on anything? No. It purely went along with the party line of terrifying people to death, or as near as they could to death, to the point that some dim-witted fools were afraid to open the fucking windows lest COVID comes in and gets you. There were people who, as I've said in a previous post, didn't know how many times they could walk the dog. The BBC didn't do anything. And the BBC used to do hard-hitting documentaries. Its panorama was very hard-hitting. It would quite easily get in the middle of care home scandals where the elderly were being abused, and they would highlight it. They would highlight piss-poor performances of various hospitals. They would hold different government departments to task. Now they're not doing. Now we've not heard anything. They've never asked the question the difference of dying of Rona or with Rona. They've never questioned why some of the bizarre lockdown rules were. Oh, why is it okay to go into a pub without a mask, but you've got to go into Sainsbury's with a mask? Is Rona now does Rona like beer and it'll leave you alone if you're having a beer? They have never took this government to task, and that is one of its failings. And for me, I don't really care about the entertainment bit because I don't watch it anymore. I want to know why it's not doing its job as free press. And I know that's not the BBC, just the BBC. That is everyone. That is everyone in the Western world. From Australia to France to Holland to Denmark to America. Everyone, or nearly everyone, has followed the party line. They've not held the government to a task. They've not asked difficult questions. They have not represented the views of the British public in this case. Or the overwhelming majority want to know. They just want the truth. Give me simple facts, figures, and then let them make their own decision. But the BBC didn't do that. They didn't give people the choice. They might as well have been, like I said, the propaganda arm of the British government. And that is one of the reasons why I think, for me, the BBC should lose its licence. Yeah, I don't care about it. Like I said, its mantra was to entertain, to educate, and to inform. Now it's more along the lines of following the woke narrative. That is its new core principles. Diversity, inclusion. And they're all good things when done properly, but they're not. If you look at the BBC in the 50s, not in the 50s, in the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, early 90s, before the words diversity and inclusion were twisted to mean anything not white and straight. Because that's what it means now. No white people, no straight people, and definitely no straight white people. Before then, diversity was natural. It occurred. It occurred in Only Fools and Horses. It occurred in the Fast Show. A lot of the last Christmas we had the Vicar of Dibley. We're, standing up for BLM. Except there was no black people in that TV show when it was shown early in late 90s, early 90s. And yet it jumped on this bandwagon, despite it failing itself. Red Dwarf had two main black characters. It was never a thing. And yet we're supposed to think that diversity is a new thing when it isn't. The BBC right now at this moment in time is more concerned with box ticking and pigeonholing people rather than telling good stories. It used to do some very good historical documentaries. What it does now is more concerned with trying to make us believe that there was a very large, significant black population in the country, all the way back from the Romans. And no doubt there was still some that stayed. There were many in Elizabeth's navy, many in Nelson's navy, that were freed slaves who, were either pressed or enlisted themselves in the navy. So no one doubts that black people haven't always been here, but the BBC are trying to push it so that it's like, they've always been here. There's, lots and lots of them, when that was probably not the case. But they're more concerned with pushing a narrative rather than educating properly. Rather than give you a good show on maybe, the aspects of slavery. They will only tell you one side. They won't tell you every side. They won't show you how black people were selling other black people into slavery. They won't even tell you that is happening today. And it is. But they won't. There's no documentaries on this, is there? Because it doesn't fit the narrative that the BBC are pushing right now. Now, I think the licence should go because it has failed in every duty that it once held dear. I grew up on some fabulous BBC comedy. I grew up watching Dad's Army, Hello Hello, The Fast Show, Only Fools and Horses. I grew up watching the documentaries, and yet now the only way you'll see most of them now are probably on repeats on Sky because they just don't show them anymore. You know, the BBC is more concerned with crap. I'm sure even now, if I was to flick through a TV guide, there wouldn't be anything worth watching at 3:05 in the afternoon. You know, like again, just going back to my childhood, like the BBC stopped doing a children's thing a long time ago. But from about 3:30 onwards till about 5:30, I think it were. If memory serves me right, it was, you know, Christ, this is showing my age. It'd be Andy Crane and fucking Ed the Duck and the Goose and the fucking Hand. You know, and they'd have different, back when we didn't know Rolf Harris was a bad un, you'd have his TV show on where he'd be drawing sketches of famous cartoon characters, or you'd have, fucking Morph, fucking plastic thing, and you'd have Art Attack was on ITV. But you had so much on the BBC at one point where it did try and cater for people. You know, you had your children in the afternoon. You'd have, you know, we also had fucking football and stuff on the BBC when I was a kid. Now we don't because they lost it to Sky. But even if I wonder what the viewing figures are for Match of the Day now. Because if you look on Facebook and social media, people are fed up with how they've box ticked all the old presenters. Sky have done the same. They've got rid of the fans' favourite presenters in favour of diversity and inclusion. And all you've done is destroyed the soul of your show. You know, the BBC has been given 5 years' notice, basically to sort your shit out. Now, we all know that if Boris loses, well, if the Tories lose the next election, because I don't think Boris is going to be in charge, do you? If the Tories lose the next election, then Labour can all undo it anyway. I think the BBC are really, really relying on that. You know, there's a lot the BBC could do to fix themselves. They could get rid of all the presenters on millions of pounds. Gary Lineker shouldn't be on millions of pounds for presenting a fucking show once a week for 9 months of the year. He shouldn't be on millions for that. If he's any good as a presenter, he'll pick up other work. You know, he shouldn't be on fucking millions of pounds. You know, your ratings are suffering fucking strictly. Come down to how much ratings have suffered since they went woke and went box ticking. You know, don't get me wrong, it always did a bit of box ticking because you always had the useless old fat person who was just there for a joke. You know. But the BBC, it's in the BBC's hands to fix itself. Right? It's in its own hands. The question is, will it seize this opportunity to fix itself, or will it dig its heels in and double and triple and quadruple down? Anyway, that's it for me. I'll see you all again. Bye for now.